Okay, good morning. My name is Felicia Barnard, and this is Kevon, and Kevon will be going to the 5th grade in August, and we've been having a great time working together. Today, Kevon, we're going to be working on fluency. We're going to look at some ways that we can read accurately at the right speed with calling out the words correctly, and then after we finish reading, I'll go ahead and ask you some questions. So you have a minute to read as much as you can accurately, okay? What's the title of our reading passage for this morning?
Take me out to the ball game.
Take me out to the ball game, okay? So, are you ready? Go ahead and put your finger there.
Yes.
And we'll get started. Go ahead.
It was the bottom of the 8th inning in the Little League championship. The Lizards led the Bees 3-2. Strike one, shouted the ump. Just when it seemed that strike was the only word the ump knew how to say, the Bees hit a double. Batting next was a speedy outfielder with a high batting average. He whacked the pitcher into the center field, and a runner came home. The score was 3-3. Sadly, just when the Bees had momentum, the next two batters struck out to end the inning. At the top of the 9th inning, the Bees made
Okay. Very good. So let's see. I'm just going to count the number of words that you read for me, okay? Okay. Okay. So your reading rate is 91 words per minute, and we want to go ahead and lean towards more 150 words. Okay? So that means that within a minute you should be able to read 4 paragraphs accurately. Okay? And we'll come back to that. So right now what we're going to do, Kevon, we are going to go ahead and look at a reader's theater script. And what we're going to do, we're going to read this script almost as if we're a movie player or a movie star or a TV star. And we have a script that we have to read. Now with this script, it's going to help us to read at the appropriate level and to work on our fluency and making sure that we use the correct expression, okay? Pausing the inflections and the intonations. Okay, so are you ready? But before we begin, we're going to look at some vocabulary words. Let's look at these words here. Accredited.
Accredited.
Conservation.
Conservation.
Controversial.
Controversial.
Curator.
Curator.
Ecosystem.
Ecosystem.
Exotic.
Exotic.
Extinct.
extinct,
Psychological.
psychological,
Stewards.
stewards,
Tranquilize.
tranquilize,
Wildlife refugees.
wildlife refugees.
Okay, now the first word we have in our vocabulary is accredited. What do you think accredited means? You don't know? You want to take a guess? You don't know? Okay, so that's a word that we're going to be looking at once we do our reading, okay? And we're going to look and see if we can use context clues to help us figure out what this word means. Okay, conservation. Have you ever heard of conservation before?
I don't know what it means, but I heard of it.
Okay. What have you heard associated with conservation? Have you heard of like water conservation? No? No? Okay, that's okay. Controversial, have you heard of that word before? No? Okay. Curator? Ecosystem? What do you think ecosystem means?
The environment,
The environment, okay. Exotic, what do you think that means? You don't know? Okay, well, we're going to go through this and we're going to see if we can use context clues to help us figure out what these words mean. Okay, so before we get started with that, we went over vocabulary and we're going to look at and highlight the words that we see in our vocabulary. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do, I'm going to have you select two readers, two characters that you are going to be in charge of reading. Okay, so select two characters. We have the announcer, Mr. Francis, Miss McCoy, Mr. Gonzalez, Miguel, Colleen, Sam, Sarah, Brandon, and Ruth. Okay, you got to say their names so I can see which ones you want.
Mr. McCoy and Sam.
Okay, Miss McCoy and Sam. Okay, so those two are your characters. And I'll be reading all the other characters, okay? So let's get started with zoos, pro or con. Okay? So here's the announcer. You said that you are Mrs. McCoy and Sam. Last week, one of the wealthiest residents of Springfield donated a large sum of money to the local zoo. This money allowed the zoo to grow into one of the leading wildlife conservation centers in America. We came to a vocabulary word. Well, what do you think that means that we said in that sentence? This money will allow the zoo to grow into one of the leading wildlife conservation centers in America.
Wait.
Could it mean that there's a lot of animals there and they're trying to save the animals? Okay. All right, well, let's continue. The news has also sparked heated discussion within the community. Today, we have Mr. Francis' 5th grade class who has been studying zoos in depth. Here to debate the many pros and cons of the institution, we'll begin with an introduction by Mr. Francis.
Good morning, everyone. As the announcer said, my class has been studying zoos for the past few weeks, asking tough questions and discussing their importance. Zoos are a complex and controversial topic, and the disagreements about them are not likely to be resolved in the near future. A few students have chosen to choose by the class to represent different viewpoints on zoos. We will use both facts and opinions that may help others decide what is best for our city and what the future should be for the animals that live in the zoo. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Francis. We'll begin the debate with an argument in the support of zoos from Miguel, Colleen, and Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here to enthusiastically support the expansion of the Springfield Zoo. In recent decades, people have become more aware of the dangers facing Earth's environment. People are changing the natural world in ways that have threatened many animal species. That's correct. Many kinds of animals that live in balance on our planet for millions of years are now in danger of becoming extinct. What do you think extinct means?
Gone.
Good, very good. It is up to us to fix the problems we caused by cleaning up the environment, shifting to greener lifestyles, and making every effort to save species that are threatened by our activities.
People are using more and more wild land for gathering resources and for farming, causing the natural habitats of animals to be broken into smaller, disconnected areas. This process separates animals from other of their kind and makes it more difficult for them to find mates. We have brought in Miss Suzanne McCoy, a wildlife biologist with a Springfield Zoo, to speak more on this topic. Thank you, McGill, Colin, and Sam, with the generous new funding. The Springfield Zoo will join the efforts of many other zoos thought out throughout the world that are attempting to breed endangered animals. Without zoos, these animals would run the risk of dying out completely in a short time. We work very hard to help these species survive and, in some cases, to return animals born in the zoo into the wild. The additional money will also allow us to work with individuals and organizations in the animals and native regions to establish wildlife refuge. We plan to help educate local people about farming methods that are less damaging to the environment. We also have programs that support keeping wild animals in their native habitats so they don't need to be moved to refuges.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McCoy. All of the arguments beg to question. What kind of world do we want to leave our children and grandchildren? If we want our descendants to experience the incredible variety and beauty of nature, we need to work to preserve wild animals. The expansion of the Springfield Zoo will allow our community to take a more active role in spreading the message of conservation.
The new funding will also allow our zoo to continue its efforts to save many species from
Extinction.
extinction.
Thank you, Miguel, Colleen, Sam, and especially Miss McCoy for taking the time to join us. Next, we will hear from Brandon, Sarah, and Ruth present an argument in opposition of zoos.
As a class, we have been following the discussions on the zoo expansion project, and it has made some of us very upset. People have no right to capture wild animals or lock them in cages. Wild animals have as much rights to freedom as humans do.
Zoos send a message to the public that keeping wild animals for our own entertainment is acceptable. This sometimes leads people to think that they can keep exotic animals as pets, even though they lack the training and facilities to care for the animals properly.
The conditions in which some zoo animals live is a serious problem, as private business zoos are under pressure to make a profit. As a result, some zoos attempt to reduce their expenses by cutting corners and not giving animals